Hey everyone, and welcome back to our writing test series. Today we have a brand new question from July this year. Let's see. Today's young generation is facing many problems in school and at home. What are the problems and what can parents do to help their teenage children? Now this is a good question because lots of people actually think this is a problem solution essay, but it's really not. As you can see, it looks like if you don't really investigate, it looks like it could be a problem solution essay because you have problems and what can you do to fix it. But in a problem solution essay, the first question is always about why does this happen or what happens as a result of this thing. And then the second question is always about solutions. So this is different. What are the problems? They just say the young generation faces a lot of problems at school and at home. What exactly are these problems? They want you to expound on that thing. What are these problems? Tell us what the problems are. Not why do these problems happen or what happens as a result of these problems, right? That's why this isn't a problem solution essay. That's why this is a two-part question essay. I know that probably must surprise a lot of you people, but it's really important that you know your essay type and you know what you're expected to do, because lots of people confuse two-part question essays and problem solution essays. That's kind of why I picked this one. We had another question as well, in fact, but that was just a general opinion essay question, so I didn't want to do that one because it was too simple. Okay, as usual, we begin with our main ideas first. This is just what I like doing. You might do it separately, and that's also perfectly fine. So what problems do people face? Children, no, not children, but teenagers really, because it's a young generation. So that's, of course, it can include anyone as young as 11 to all the way to, 18, 19, since we're talking about teenage children, right? And problems at school and at home. Perhaps what I'm seeing is that they often have short attention spans, right? Because of screen time. They essentially, at least Gen Z, they've grown up with phones. I grew up with phones as well, but it was different in my time. We just had we didn't have like touch screens until I think I was 15 years old or something. I don't remember. And back then, phones were just phones. You can call and you can text and maybe you can play Snake. That's pretty much it. But, kids as young as like 2-3 years, they have like tablets and, Peppa Pig playing on it. And that's just what parents do. Like, hey, let's, do this to, shush the kid. So that's one thing. They have shorter attention spans. That's obviously a problem, for their education. And you could also possibly say that there's more broken families nowadays. That, of course, it's like that's a debatable topic personally, because just because there's more divorces and so on, that doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because again, maybe in the past families just stuck together because they had no other option, and just because a family is together doesn't necessarily mean that it's a happy family, right? And just because someone's like divorced doesn't mean they're unhappy. So it's kind of a debatable point. Personally, that's what I think, but you may have a different idea. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so this one's interesting. Today's young generation, right? It can't just be something very bland. It has to be something that's related. I think there's also a lot of competition. I think because of social media, you have so many people who are in their teens and they have like really successful YouTube channels, or they're already Instagram influencers. And when you like see that and you're a young person, you think, oh my god, this person has achieved so much. Back in my day, of course, we've always had, child prodigies and people who, make it, who are successful really young in life. That's always been the case. But now it's like people right? And like you don't necessarily have to be some, huge superstar, like a pop star or, an actor or something to be successful, right? It's a legitimate job nowadays to be, a YouTube personality or Instagram or TikTok influencer. It's legitimate. So they see that and they think, oh my god, I'm not like, it's also, I think, that actually brings me to my next point. You see how cool this is? When you really think about your topic, one thing kind of just leads to another. So they also have image issues, body image and self-worth, yeah, because they're seeing all these highly edited things, pictures of people, and they're thinking, oh, there's something wrong with my nose, there's something wrong with my forehead, there's something wrong with my legs or whatever. Because of this, obviously, I mean, everybody on Instagram uses filters. I mean, it's just common knowledge, and yet we still compare ourselves to that. It's obviously, that's always something that's happened. People have always compared themselves to others in magazines and so on. But now it's not like, you see, like 20 years ago, when you had to wait for a magazine or newspaper to come around, you looked at that maybe once a day, once a week or something. But now social media, every second someone's uploading something. There's a new picture, there's a new video. So yeah, I think these are major issues. Of course, I feel like the attention span is just one thing for school competition. Because of social media, that also is something relevant in any case, because there's more competition. You feel like, oh, I really have to be super special, I really have to do something outside of the box, right? If you compare that to the kind of issues that other generations have had, of course there's always pressure to be successful. It doesn't matter what your age is, but that pressure usually comes to the forefront when you graduated college, and now you think, okay, I really have to get a good job, I really have to do something good, right? But now it's like, oh, you're like 9 years old and you're thinking, why does this other kid have a successful YouTube channel? That these kinds of things. So yeah, I think these are new challenges. These are unique to our current scenario. And what can parents do? I would say, yeah, you should limit screen time, even though there'll be lots of tantrums over this. But ultimately, it's a healthy thing. Make sure that you have regular family time, because you need to. If you don't know what your kids are up to, if you're going off to work at 8 a.m., coming back home at 10 p.m. just to tuck them into bed, you essentially live a very different life. You know nothing about your kids. You don't know what their struggles are. You don't know if they're depressed. You don't know if they're anxious. You don't know if they're struggling with something, right? So that's really important. Talk to them. Make an effort to actually be involved in their lives, right? Yeah, that's good. Super simple. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think these two are kind of related. Have regular family time. Family time can actually just be talking, taking a vacation or something, be involved in their school, like, be involved in their academics, go to parent teacher meetings, make sure you're working on activities. I might change this later. This is just like, a placeholder right now, right? Okay. So, the cultural landscape, right? Cultural landscape today presents various challenges for young people. There we go. That's it. That's my main idea. And then, what can parents do to help their teenage children? Parents have an integral role play. Mhm. in ensuring that their children are supported during this stage of their lives, because you're more impressionable as a teenager than you are as an adult. As an adult, once you're like over 25, your brain has finished developing, so you're less susceptible to undue influence. You're less you're kind of hard set in your ways, and you're not likely to kind of be tricked or fooled by anything. But when you're younger, every single thing kind of has an impression. So I think that's good. That's pretty much it. I'm just gonna go and write my introduction. So I think like this, I get the feeling that maybe I could use this instead, in my introduction, and create something else, but that's okay. I like the sentence. It's a nice sentence, but let's see. We could always change things around. It's not, like fixed. Just because you write it doesn't mean it's fixed. Of course, that also depends if you're taking the computer-based exam or the paper-based one. Okay, so the teenagers growing up today. Okay, teenagers growing up today face a unique environment with issues that are relatively nascent, right? They're very new. You don't have issues with social media and stuff 20 years ago, 15 years ago even. It was not that big. In fact, Facebook, etc. was just, I think, launched in 2004, 2005. Instagram just 10 years, 11 years ago. So all these things are relatively new. YouTube was popular, but not like now. You have legitimate people who have, like, tons and tons of subscribers, and like that's their job, that's their career. That kind of thing just blew up in the last, I would say, 7 to 8 years. So it's new, relatively new. And if you were born, in the 2000s and later on, you grew up with this kind of thing. So these challenges are new, and of course, with every new challenge, you need to come up with ways to, fix that challenge. We need to think, okay, well, this is a new problem. How do we fix it, right? So teenagers growing up today face a unique environment with due to this rampant, of course, it's not just technology, although all of my ideas are related to technology, so I'm gonna take that viewpoint. So teenagers growing up today face a unique environment with issues that are relatively nascent, largely due to the rapid, insane development of technology, and its this complex relationship between technology and our lives, right? That has a huge role to play, and its role in our lives. And then what are the problems? I think I've kind of blended, my background statement and the response to the first question together, so that's perfectly fine. What can parents do to help their teenage children? Because of the sensitive nature of adolescence, it is necessary that parents step up and ensure that their children are supported, during this phase of their lives. Oh, well, I've already kind of said that during this stage, so I don't want to repeat that. Instead, I can make something different. Due to the sensitive nature of adolescence, it's necessary that parents step up and ensure that their children are supported. Supported, let's say, sufficiently, because no one else can really do that. Of course, you have, like, counselors and stuff at school, you have friends, but it's not really the same thing. You cannot compare a counselor who you only meet like once a week, maybe, if that, or a friend who really, doesn't really know you 100%, right? So they're not really comparable. And of course, when you have ideas, you should always check the ideas, see if the order could be, changed, short attention spans. I think that's number one, because, gosh, I mean, what I've seen is, and this isn't okay. Well, this is kind of off topic, but I've employed a few Gen Z people, here and there for certain projects, and like they're, of course they, understand technology better than I do, although I'm not that old, but that's just a thing, right? You grow up with that kind of thing. But at the same time, it's like they have to be told, like they have to constantly be reminded, hey, we have this task. Would you mind completing it? And then it's always, again, maybe it's just, the people that I knew. I don't know. I'm not trying to paint everyone with the same brush. But what I've seen is, I think they really do have, a tough time sticking to tasks. Even if you give them like a full list, okay, here's today's list. Please do, these 5 things. And like you have to tell them in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. So that I find that odd. But then maybe that's just a generational thing. I don't know. I could be wrong, But yeah, that's what I find, and I think most parents would actually agree as well. Because it's, kids especially, if they've been raised with, tablets and whatever, and they have their own phone when they're like 5 years old, they will throw, and I've seen this happen also. I used to work with kids, and of course, lots of parents do that. Just give the child a tablet or a cell phone. Sorry. And if you take that away from them, and it's like their favorite show is on, they're gonna throw a temper tantrum. I mean, they do that with TV anyway, so it's not too different to what we had, except a TV is like in a fixed position, but your cell phone is always with you. Okay, so I think the ideas are good. At least I find them perfectly fine. Somebody else may have a different perspective, and that's also perfectly fine. Okay, so the biggest concern is the lack of their the biggest concern, I've said young people already. Okay, so that's good. I can use a pronoun then. Is their shortened attention span, or the biggest concern is their attention span due to the proliferation of tablets and smartphones, and their availability, right? And their availability at really young ages. Most teenagers, and especially with short form video, TikTok, shorts, reels, people don't really have the patience nowadays to like sit through like a full video or whatever. I mean, you could argue that's always been the case, but there is, like, for example, take a book. Like, reading has been declining in popularity since quite some time now. And I mean, I can understand it's a bit frustrating. Just a couple weeks ago, I read Wuthering Heights, and I mean, it was a tome. It was like, I don't know, 450 pages or something. And I think I read it in 2 days. So, I mean, yeah, I'm a fast reader, but, even I felt like, gosh, this is like, it's not really moving the story. It's like, it was so slow to build. And that's not a complaint. I enjoyed it, in fact. But it's, it's like, why would you read a book? Only if you're like really interested. I really wanted to find out what happens, and I was, I had that, kind of patience to stick it out. But if you're constantly surrounded by short form video and quick things all the time, quick updates, you comment, post, like, share, everything's happening so quickly. You go to Twitter and you look at news and stuff, and everything's like, you get like a blow by blow account of everything second by second. You get used to that, right? And you don't like waiting around for things like that. I think that's really an important skill, or rather, well, I don't know if we can really call it a skill. Of course, it can be trained, but then I think most people are just unaware of that. So, yeah. So the biggest concern is their attention span due to the proliferation of tablets and smartphones and their availability at really young ages. Because, like my generation, our first cell phones, we probably got them when we were teenagers, like 13, 14, 15. I got my first cell phone when I was 10 or 11, but that was because I needed to contact my parents. So yeah, it was just a normal cell phone. You could just text and call on it, maybe take some really grainy pictures. That's it. So yeah, but now kids have their own phones. They're like 4 years old, 5 years old. They have their own phone, or at least a tablet. So that's obviously a huge reason of to do with that, right? So most teenagers, okay, let me read my sentence once again. The biggest concern is their attention span. Due to the proliferation of tablets and smartphones and their availability at really young ages, most teenagers do not really have the attention span necessary. Most teenagers cannot really focus on a task that requires concentration. Whether it's reading or writing, which obviously has a negative impact their academics, obviously. Not just your academics, but even your life. And then a related concern is also, well, it's technology, and then I'm talking about social media. So social media goes hand in hand with technology, right? So something that goes, hand in hand with technology. The rapid, the increased use of digital devices is Why am I using digital devices? That's kind of weird. Tablets, smartphones, electronic devices. Or well, I don't know, this is kind of strange. I don't want to use that. Something goes hand in hand with the increased use of, I don't want to say smartphones and tablets. I've already said that. And it's not that you can't repeat that. It's just that I don't want to do it. That's all. That's just how I write. It's not that you can't. It's not that if you do that, you won't get a 7. So don't worry about that. This is really just a combination of things. It's just a pet peeve of mine. That's all. Again, I've been doing this for such a long time. So, you kind of develop your own style of doing things, right? So, something that goes hand in hand with the increased use of such devices is social media, which there's broad acceptance, which enjoys, or rather which has been broadly accepted by, you even have like children on social media, which is very odd to me. I'm sure they have you can't use it if you're under 13 and stuff like that. I remember on Facebook you have to be, at least way back, I don't know, 15 years ago or something, when I tried making an account, you had to tick a box that said you were 13. I wasn't. I was like 12. And I just ticked that box. And of course, I supplied a fake birth date. Come on, don't laugh at me, because I'm sure all of you have done the same thing. We're all millennials here, and we've all done similar things. So anyway, it's obviously very easy to bypass. The funny thing is, when I logged in and then I changed my birth date to my real one, they immediately banned me. And anyway, of course, that's a good thing to do. That's the right thing to do. So yeah, which has been broadly accepted by children and teenagers alike. So it's not just teenagers, it's not just over 13 who use, such websites. Everyone does. Something that goes hand in hand with the increased use of such devices, social media, which has been broadly accepted, which has been, accepted by children and teenagers alike. And people face, I think I'm just gonna put this over here. Even though I recommend just writing one sentence or one supporting idea, my style can be different, because again, this depends on exactly what you're writing. The reason why I tell that to my students is just so that they can keep things simple. That's all. Just, for simplicity's sake, you don't really want to overcomplicate anything. But I can do that. I can overcomplicate my own writing, because I'm in full control of what I'm doing. So that's okay for me, but I wouldn't give, just any random person the same advice. So something goes hand in hand, children and teenagers alike. It is now common for even teenagers, right, to have legitimate careers because of social media, right? Because of websites and applications. Don't use the short form, such as YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Which of course is a good thing for them, but it results in a lot of jealousy and a lot of competition, right? Which a lot of competition, feelings of inferiority, jealousy, and inferiority amongst others in the same age group. That happens with adults as well. But kids, teenagers, etc., they're more susceptible. They're less in control of their feelings and stuff like that. Age groups, right? So there we go. Let's read my sentence. It is now common. Okay, why do I have a? Okay, it's now common for you and teenagers to have legitimate careers because of in the same age groups, legitimate careers because of their popularity, popularity on websites and applications. For it is now common for some teenagers, not all, some teenagers. It is now common for some teenagers to have legitimate careers who have not achieved that sort of, popularity, or who don't have the same kind of followers. It's all, well, you could argue the same thing with Facebook likes and stuff like that, but that's like already an old generation kind of thing. Achieve that sort of following online, right? And of course, then image issues are a related thing, right? So in conjunction with that, or you can say not only it's essentially a popularity contest. So not only are social media sites, I wouldn't say they're responsible. That's a very strong word to use, right? Who told you? They didn't force you to do it, right? So you could argue that it's not their fault. Essentially, it's how you use it. It's not the tool, but how you use it. A knife can be used to cut vegetables. You can also use it to commit murder. So you can't really blame the knife, right? So not only is competition rife. Social media sites are not only rife with competition, but they are also hotbeds of self-worth. What's that called? I think, oh yes, self-worth. Hotbeds of, I would say, or they're also, I don't want to use responsible, but they are also you have to be very careful with your word choice if you're aiming for a very high score, like 8.5, 9, etc. Because you can, of course, just throw around responsible. That's fine, not bad. But, if I want to write something a little bit better, then I'm going to choose my words carefully. So these sites are not only rife with competition, but there are also places where, well, they're also, I think they aren't, because again, I could say they're responsible. Why not? Because it's the algorithm which, pushes a certain type of person, to the top, right? So, I mean, yeah, why not? This makes sense. Responsible for fomenting self-image issues, self-worth, it is a very common fact for young people. I've already used that. So for many people to now think that there is something wrong with their nose or forehead or body, because they've been bombarded, right? Because they have been bombarded essentially with images of near perfection. And of course, you could say that, there's many people who go and get plastic surgery and never talk about it, but that's another thing. But, it's an image of near perfection. It's not actual perfection, right? Of near perfection through these applications, right? It is common for people to now think there's something wrong with their nose, forehead, body, because they've been bombarded with images of near perfection almost every second. Basically, open an app, swipe through it. You can swipe through 100 people in like 100 seconds, right? So there we go. And that's pretty much it. So then my last sentence, today's cultural landscape. Okay, I think maybe I could just say cultural, and I would rather say social landscape, because that's a better fit. Okay, thus prevailing trends and prevailing trends in well, it's not a trend really. I would say can be exacerbated. I mean, teenagers are anyway prone to, such things, but that becomes worse, right? Let's say that you feel depressed when it's dark out. So if you're naturally that kind of person, that problem is going to become worse if you live somewhere where it's dark 6 months of the year, right? So exacerbated. So naturally occurring teenage issues, I don't know if I've never said that, so I can't really say that, right? So if teenagers spend a lot of time around technology and the internet, they are likely to, fall victim to such issues. There we go. Simple and easy to understand. Then we have the next sentence. Parents have an integral role. Okay. Ideas, again, limit screen time, family time. That's good enough. Okay. The most effective solution, the most effective thing they could do, the most effective, I think it's something you do it like right now, and it's like taking, let's say, a painkiller, right? It fixes your problem very quickly instead of doing other things, whatever those other things may be. The most effective thing can be done. I wanted to use a different word. Effective, what's that? Effective is not wrong, of course, it's right. It's just that I was also looking for something which could express that it's very quick, but it kind of, it does the same job, so I don't actually have to. Okay, so the most effective thing to be done is to simply limit their screen time. You're the parent, they live under your roof, your rules, their screen time. And ensure that their access to such devices is controlled and allowed only for work, only for school, and of course many of them do have jobs, so work. If you legitimately have a YouTube career or whatever, then why should you be prevented, right? Come on, that makes sense. And even if you have of course many teenagers have part-time jobs or even full-time jobs. And of course, it's not like you can say no phone for you at all until you're 18 years old. That's ridiculous. That would never work. That would kind of just be tantamount to abuse, honestly, because you need a phone. You need access to cellular technology. So, and of course, the internet. How are you supposed to do your schoolwork without the internet? How are you supposed to grow? How are you supposed to learn, right? It's not like maybe 15 years ago you could say, okay, no internet for you. But now, no, that's just ridiculous. And if you do such a thing, then they're going to be left behind. They're going to not have the skills that they need. Computer skills, internet skills are absolutely necessary. It's no longer an option. So, yeah. The most effective thing that can be done is to supplement their screen time and ensure that their access to devices is controlled and allowed only for school and work, and occasionally for leisure, as long as the websites and applications they use are monitored. Because there's also risk of being groomed online. There's predators online. So yeah, have regular family time. Okay. Yeah, that's not just control, but also they need to be supported, right? Emotional nurturing, providing emotional nurturance. Or you can use nurturing just to keep it simple. Or you can use nourishment. Providing emotional nourishment is another vital part of the whole. This is like what we're doing to fix a problem. So another vital part of the solution. Because teenagers need constant reassurance and time with their families, so that their parents can be aware of what is going on in their lives, and know how they feel on a regular basis, so that any issues or problems can be dealt with quickly, right? If your kid is let's say that they're not doing very well lately, or they're just not in a good mood for like the past couple of days, you might ask them, hey, what happened? They might tell you that someone's bullying me, right? So then you can take quick action. But if you don't even interact with your kid, how are you going to know, right? So let's read our sentence again. Teenagers need constant reassurance and time with their families, so their parents can be aware of what's going on in their lives and know how they feel on a regular basis, so that any problems can be dealt with quickly, right? Sooner rather than later. And then, what's the next one? We're involved. Similarly, attempts should be made to, what's that? Involved. Oh, I've already said that. Regular family time. Well, you know, can kind of, I did this one first, I did this one next, that's okay. Made to carve out special family time, you know, whether that means, you know, going to the cinema, you know, each week, or, you know, planning vacations, or even activities to do together to strengthen, you know, the family bond and ensure that, you know, each member, not just a teenager, but yeah, the focus here is teenagers anyway, so we'll write that. Carve out special family time, whether it's going to the cinema or vacations or even activities. You don't necessarily have to have a vacation. You may even just like, oh, we're gonna, you know, cook together each Thursday, or we're gonna, you know, make pizzas together each, you know, Sunday, or whatever. Something you do together, it, you know, it's something that you enjoy, you have laughter, and, you know, it that's a good thing, right? The more positive interactions you have, of course, every single person, every single relationship will have negative interactions, but your positive interactions should be more than your negative interactions, right? Especially with teenagers, there's so many of them, the negative interactions. I mean, it's just a thing, it's just biology. So carve out special family time, going to cinema, planning vacations, whatever, and ensure that they feel like they can, you know, trust their parents with absolutely anything. Often they feel like I cannot talk to my parent, right? So that's another like issue. Okay, and then if parents are proactive, many of these issues are easy to deal with. But if you don't even know that, oh, my kid has, you know, like my kid eats dinner but then throws up everything and they have, like, you know, bulimia, how are you going to fix it? Because you don't know what's happening in a kid's life, right? There we go. And finally, in conclusion, that's good. This is like also, lately I've been writing these pretty quick. I mean, if you want me to explain more, and, you know, I would of course be willing to do that. It's just that I don't think there's anyone in the live chat right now. But yeah, just let me know if you would prefer me to like write the essays, you know, like super quick, 25 minutes or 30 minutes or something, or if you want me to chat more and just explain things more. Of course, I do naturally do that anyway, but sometimes it happens, like, I don't know, it happens super quickly sometimes. So in conclusion, I always use this. It's old-fashioned, yes, but you know, it works. And you know what we say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Very, very colloquial, by the way. You don't want to, you would never want to write that in an essay. I don't think you'd even want to say that in the speaking test, because it's very, very colloquial. If it ain't broke, I mean, it should be if it is not broken. But you know, ain't very colloquial. Broke instead of broken, again, very, very casual. But it's good to know these things. You know, especially like the test is just like an artificial thing, but consider why you're taking the test, because you want to live in a country that speaks English. So naturally you'll want to be very, you know, colloquial, natural, casual in your expressions. Well, that's enough advice for today. It's evident that what did I say? The cultural, okay. Teenagers growing up today face teenagers, what's that? Okay. Face a unique set of challenges that parents need to be aware of to ensure that they can deal with them and raise happy children. It doesn't matter if you're 18 years old, you're still a child, basically, for your parent anyway, right? And raise happy and confident children. If remain uninvolved in their, you know, children's lives, they can only blame themselves when things go south. Go south, again, turn a phrase. If you don't know what that means, don't use it. Go south is when things go bad, essentially, right? And there we go. There's the whole thing. Let's check the word count. Okay, there's 493 words. Pretty, and by now that's how much I write. I actually read a comment yesterday in a Facebook group. It was some teacher guy, and he was saying that someone wrote an essay that was like 373 words or something. And he was like, oh my god, that's way too much. 373 words. And he was like saying, oh, 373 words in 40 minutes, that's too much, no way you'll have checked everything. And I'm here like, oh my god, like that's not true at all, because you can, depends on your skill, right? If I just had to write only 250 words, I could probably do that in like 10-15 minutes. Of course, it depends on your skill. Most people I know, definitely it's true that 250 to 300 words, that's all they can manage in, like 35-40 minutes. But a lot of teachers actually don't really have a clue, in terms of like what each person is really capable of doing. So that was an interesting comment. I still remember that because it really hit me, and I wanted to comment, but I was like, why waste my time and energy? Because again, there's all kinds of people in the world. Anyway, here's our introduction. Then we have body paragraph 1. You can pause the screen if you want to read. If you're a student, you will of course have access to all of these original files in your student resources folder. And then we have body paragraph 2, and we have the last one. There we go. And that's all for today. I'll see you next week. Until then, bye bye.